Hello again, friends. I have no idea if you all like the timestamp, but the editor said they were super easy to do, so I guess we'll keep doing them. That way, I don't feel as bad about my ramblings. Also, we will do something new with this story. The cameraman finally watched one of my videos and asked about the green typing. I said that was the editor making snarky comments, and the cameraman said that in that case the editor should have their own avatar. I asked what an avatar was, and the cameraman just rolled their eyes and called me a boomer. Whatever that means. So I had to look it up. Per Google, an avatar is an icon or figure representing a particular person in video games, internet forums, and so on. So, from now on, when the editor has something to say, you will see them in the corner of the screen. The art was provided by the cameraman. I hope you like them. Please let us know in the comments. Today's story is a kind of a request, but not really. I have a friend who, well, she hates princess stories. My friend is pretty incredible, and she has always fought all her own battles and saved herself if she ever needed saving. She's offended that so many princesses in fairy tales just hang around and wait to be rescued. I wanted to point out that Snow White was only 7 years old, and you can't judge her too harshly, but I do understand my friend's point. For a long time, the princesses in the tale really had no agency. Not in old fairy tales, which are dark and disturbing, and most princesses do, in fact, have a hand in their own lives one way or another. But in many cleaned-up, sanitized fairy tale cartoons, the girl just waits to be rescued. Many, many, many more modern movies have made fun of this, so I thought, why don't I find a tale where the undisputed hero of the story is a girl? Sadly, our hero is not a princess at the start of the story, so I guess this can't be included under the princess heading, but I still think it counts. This tale comes from England and was not in the books of either the Tales the Grimm brothers collected or Charles Perrault, that I know of. I do hope you like it. I give you Molly Whuppie. Once upon a time there was a man and a wife who had too many children, and they could not get meat for them, so they took the 3 youngest and left them in a wood. This seems to be a more common way of getting rid of children than I had thought. Well, by that I mean it also happens in Hansel and Gretel, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? The children traveled and could never see a house. It began to be dark, and they were hungry. At last they saw a light and made for it. It turned out to be a house. So much better than an oncoming freight train. They knocked at the door, and a woman came to it who said, "What do you want?" They said, "Please let us in and give us something to eat." The woman said, "I can't do that. My man is a giant, and he would kill you if he comes home." Ooh, that's an excellent reason not to come in. They begged hard. "Let us stop for a little while," they said, "and we will go away before he comes." So she took them in and set them down before the fire and gave them milk and bread. But just as they had begun to eat, a great knock came to the door, and a dreadful voice said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of some earthly one." Is this giant related to Jack's giant, or do they all talk like this? Also, why did he knock on the door of his own house? Did he forget his keys? "Who have you there, wife?" Said the wife. "It's 3 poor lassies, cold and hungry. They will go away. Ye won't touch 'em, man." He said nothing, but ate up a big supper and ordered them to stay all night. Now he had 3 lassies of his own. I'm pretty sure they mean daughters. And they were to sleep in the same bed with the 3 strangers. The youngest of the 3 lassies was called Molly Whuppie, and she was very clever. She noticed that before they went to bed, the giant put straw ropes around her neck and her sister's, and round his own lassies' necks he put gold chains. So Molly took care and did not fall asleep, but waited till she was sure everyone was sleeping sound. Then she slipped out of bed and took the straw ropes off her own and her sisters' necks, and took the gold chains off the giant lassies. She then put the straw ropes on the giant's lassies and the gold on herself and her sisters, and lay down. Oh, clever. Not only guard against possible shenanigans, but also get 3 gold chains to sell. Although, shouldn't you be able to tell the difference between the giant's daughters and the human girls? Wouldn't there be like a significant size difference? And in the middle of the night, up rose the giant, armed with a great club, and felt for the necks with the straw. It was dark. He took his own lassies out of the bed onto the floor and battered them until they were dead. You know, I feel like I haven't had to say this in a while, but this is a children's story! What kind of moral is this? Never sleep in a strange bed with giants? And then lay down again, thinking he had managed finely. Molly thought it was time she and her sisters were off and away, so she wakened them and told them to be quiet, and they slipped out of the house. "Run, Molly, run!" They all got out safe, and they ran and never stopped until morning. Good for them. When they saw a grand house before them, it turned out to be a king's house. So Molly went in and told her story to the king. So this king lives in a grand house with no security. So kind of a small kingdom then? He said, "Well, Molly, you are a clever girl, and you have managed well. But if you would manage better and go back and steal the giant sword that hangs in the back of his bed, I would give your eldest sister my eldest son to marry." Don't the eldest sister and the eldest son get a vote? Molly said she would try. So she went back and managed to slip into the giant's house and crept in below the bed. How? Is Molly a ninja? Also, do you think he would be allowed home again after murdering his daughters? The giant came home. Well, that answers that question. And ate up a great supper and went to bed. Molly waited until he was snoring, and she crept out and reached over the giant and got down the sword. But just as she got it out over the bed, it gave a rattle, and up jumped the giant. And Molly ran out at the door, and the sword with her, and she ran and he ran till they came to the bridge of one hair. So, a tightrope? And she got over, but he couldn't. And he says, "Woe worth ye, Molly Whuppie, never ye come again." And she says, "Twice yet, Carl," quoth she, "I'll come to Spain." Wait, what? Google? Oh, that's a quote from The Song of Roland. It's a poem about how Charlemagne and the Basque people of northern Spain fought for 7 years. Apparently it's a fancy way of saying, "I'll be back." So Molly took the sword to the king, and her sister was married to his son. At least he's a man of his word. "Well," the king says, "you've managed well, Molly, but if ye would manage better and steal the purse that lies below the giant's pillow, I would marry your second sister to my second son." Again, do they get a vote in this marriage? And Molly said she would try. So she set out for the giant's house and slipped in and hid again below the bed and waited till the giant had eaten his supper and was snoring sound asleep. You know, they haven't mentioned his wife in a while. Maybe she left him. She slipped out and slipped her hand below the pillow and got out the purse. But just as she was going out, the giant wakened. That's convenient timing. And ran after her. And she ran and he ran till they came to the bridge of one hair. And she got over, but he couldn't. And he said, "Woe worth ye, Molly Whuppie, never you come again." "Once yet, Carl," quoth she, "I'll come to Spain." Goodness, she has spunk. So Molly took the purse to the king, and her second sister was married to the king's second son. After that, the king says to Molly, "Molly, you are a clever girl. But if you would do better yet and steal the giant's ring that he wears on his finger, I will give you my youngest son for yourself." Which would make her a princess. It's a princess story. Ha ha! Sorry. Molly said she would try, so she goes back to the giant's house and hides herself below the bed. The giant wasn't long ere he came home, and after he had eaten a great big supper, he went to his bed and shortly was snoring loud. Molly crept out and reached over the bed and got hold of the giant's hand, and she pulled until she got off the ring. But just as she got it off, the giant got up and gripped her by the hand, and he says, "Now I have caught you, Molly Whuppie, and if I have done as much ill to you as ye have done to me, what would ye do to me?" You know, I just thought of something. Did I miss the part where she introduced herself? How does the giant know her name? Is she wearing a name tag? Molly says, "I would put you into a sack, and I'd put the cat inside with you, and the dog aside you, and a needle and a thread and shears, and I'd hang you up upon the wall, and I'd go into the wood and choose the thickest stick I could get, and I would come home and take you down and bang you till you were dead." Oh, come on. No one is stupid enough to fall for that. "Well, Molly," says the giant, "I'll just do that to you." Well, I stand corrected. So he gets a sack and puts Molly into it, and the cat and the dog beside her, and a needle and thread and shears, and hangs her upon the wall, and goes to the wood to choose a stick. Molly sings out, "Oh, if ye saw what I see." "Oh," said the giant's wife, "what do you see, Molly?" Oh, well, drat, she didn't leave him. However, I feel as though this will end poorly for her. But Molly never said a word but, "Oh, if you see what I see." The giant's wife begged that Molly would take her up into the sack till she would see what Molly saw. So Molly took the shears and cut a hole in the sack, and took out the needle and the thread with her, and jumped down, and helped the giant's wife up into the sack, and sewed up the hole. So both giants are not the brightest crayons in the box. I guess they deserve each other. The giant's wife saw nothing, and began to ask to get down again, but Molly never minded, but she hid herself at the back of the door. Home came the giant, and a great big tree in his hand, and he took down the sack and began to batter it. His wife cried out, "It's me, man!" But the dog barked and the cat mewed, and he did not know his wife's voice. But Molly came out from the back of the door, and the giant saw her, and he ran after her, and he ran, and she ran, till they came to the bridge of one hair. And she got over it, but he couldn't. And he said, "Woe worth ye, Molly Whuppie, never ye come again." "Never more, Carl," quoth she, "will I come again to Spain." So Molly took the ring to the king, and she was married to his youngest son, and she never saw the giant again. You know, I don't know how I feel about that ending. It's only a matter of time before the giant figures out how to get over the bridge of one hair and wage war on the tiny kingdom. And the poor cat and the poor dog were completely innocent in the whole thing. I mean, at least he stopped after one hit because he saw Molly. However, Molly was very clever and really improved her situation for herself and her sisters. I would be very curious to know how her family would react if she wrote home, "Dear Mom and Dad, we are now princesses and you are not. Ha ha. Sincerely, your youngest daughter, Molly." You know, do me a favor. Let me know what you think of the ending. Or suggest a better one. I kind of expected the giant to try the bridge of one hair because he was so angry and have it break so he falls into a bottomless cavern. I think that would have felt more satisfying. So we come to the end of another video, and this is the point where I ask you to like, share, and subscribe. I know I do this every video, but We are so tiny, it would be nice to grow a little bit. My current goal is 200 subscribers by December. I do hope I'm not asking too much. I would also like to ask you to use the notification bell to remind you when I put a story on, usually on Sundays. If you would like to support me on Patreon, Instagram, or Facebook, I can promise not to bother you too much, because I forget to post a lot. I'm very bad at this sort of thing. I would also like to thank pixabay.com for the sounds and images that can be found there. I cannot say enough nice things about them. And I would like to thank you, my friends. I could not do this without you, and you are who I do this for. I'm glad we found each other. Now, a special thank you to my Patreon friends.